Yes. All right, everybody. All for one.
Woo! All
All
for
for
one.
one. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah,
All
yeah.
for one.
That's what it's about. Hey, hello, everybody. See, some people already connected here from a few places. Hello, everybody, wherever you're watching us. Great to see you. Great to be with you. Um, we are, we might be having some troubles on Facebook. Um, no, I don't know. I think hopefully we're on everywhere. Okay,
Okay.
so, yeah, yeah, I think we're on. So,
We're like
what,
coming out of
how do we,
out of another
yeah,
spaceship into
it's,
a spaceship,
guys,
right?
listen, yeah, it's hard to start today's show because we're coming, both Seth and I are coming from a very special event. How do we even go about describing where we're coming from? How do we do this, bro? What do we,
Can we
what?
say the K word?
Yeah, we should explain where we're coming from, but
How many letters does
yeah,
it have in Hebrew?
in Hebrew, four.
Four, right? The
Yeah.
four-letter word.
Four letter word.
Um, well, I guess it's not a secret that we are studying an ancient wisdom that describes what it that it predates civilization, the great big Nimrod's great big civilization in Babylon, where where writing and agriculture and the wheel and the sailboat and all of those things came from. I mean, it was a huge leap for humankind, kind of like from plants to animals was like a great leap. I don't know if this one was as big as that, but it was a massive leap in humankind a couple thousand years ago in Babylon. That's where this wisdom kind of really made its way out into the public. Before that, there was individuals attaining this just understanding, basically behind the material reality, seeing the backside of the embroidery. That's where Asaf and I, from those books and from those teachers who passed it on from teacher to student until now. This time is called the last generation. It means it's the last generation of, plants before they became animals, or the last generations of monkeys before they became people. We're here like the last generation of this kind of well-dressed monkey before he becomes and she becomes this interconnected creature. So everything that informs what Asaf and I talk about is based on that wisdom. And there is, because of the kind of creatures we are constantly, the eye sees and the heart covets. Like I see someone who has a car, I want the car. I see someone who has a certain shirt, I want the shirt. I see someone who has a certain plastic surgery, and I'm just kidding. We want the things that we see, and so we put ourselves. And that's kind of what's happening. Not kind of, that is what's happening in our environment here on this show. We put ourselves in an environment with other people around the world who are doing this as well. And when you get an opportunity to be together with thousands of people from all religions, from all sexual orientations, from all colors, from all, rich, poor, everything, and they all have the same inner yearning, it's very inspiring. And the same way that, for example, um, I saw Jimi Hendrix play guitar, and then I knew I had a direction in life, and I spend every day after school learning how to play the guitar for 20 years until I get there. I saw this certain movie when I was a kid, and I spent my whole life, how did you get here and make such a movie? Oh, when I was 5 years old, I saw this. And it's the same thing. We see the others also on this journey and succeeding on this journey, and it makes a fire inside, a passionate fire towards that. So right now we're we're coming here, and it looks like I've got the chat open, actually, Asaf, on YouTube. I'm not sure where else we are right now, but and I got a message from Kiko before from Egypt, who was connected to this event. So it looks like maybe we're preaching to the choir here because I don't know who, but I don't know how many, but looks like of some
Then
of the
let's
friends who
go.
are
Then
with
let's
us.
go deeper. Let's go deeper. Then let's try to challenge ourselves with explaining um, um, what is it that we're actually doing. What is it that is actually happening? So we're coming from an event, which is a global event, with people from about 100 countries, 30 languages, all different walks of life, backgrounds, mentalities, and yet all these people for 3 full days are focusing on something that unites them on a very deep, profound level. Something that is beyond the external appearances, something that is beyond the external differences, something that belongs to you if you are a human being, something that we all share, whether that all human beings share, whether they are aware of it or not. Um, and so these several thousand people who are with us in this global virtual event, which is, by the way, another thing we should also mention. This used to be an annual physical event that would typically take
Do you
place.
ha- do
Yeah,
were we able to find any footage from one of the previous
maybe
physical
we got
events? It's so
something.
dramatic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we maybe Chris found something
Okay.
that is playable. I don't
I
know.
th- okay.
Um, but yeah, in any case, so yeah, I would try to. What would you explain that's actually going on? What would you say about what's going on in such an event? So we're talking about an international, global unity event that is that is intended for people who are practicing this authentic ancient method, the method of Kabbalah, and what is it that we're doing, Seth? How would you go about explaining that to someone who has
Okay.
no idea? What are we doing there?
So there
Yeah.
there's there Okay, so first of all, I'm talking to our friends here at the Great Transition, so it's a little bit different than if we're just speaking to somebody on the street. So I'm going to
Well,
take that
yes,
into account.
but let's say that we are also talking to anyone who's watching here for the first time, maybe bumped into us. Let's talk to that person. Let's try
All
that.
right, well, that's going to be way more difficult. So I'll try and meet you halfway.
All right,
And
let's do that. Okay, let's
um,
compromise. Yeah.
there's there is an eternal reality. Okay, so that we are perceiving when we perceive reality, we're perceiving these things called time and space and motion. And that's how we view reality. So sometimes you're sitting, you're a kid in math class, and it seems like that hour takes 50 hours, and sometimes you're having a blast and an hour takes feels like it takes a few minutes. Time seems to stretch or close, but according to, like, for example, imagine you had a football field, right? I'm going to use this really really simple example to explain infinity or eternality compared to our perception. Imagine you had a football field, a
Okay.
huge football field. What's the difference if I told you I put one speck of sand on the football field? I'd like you to find it, or two specks of sand on the football field. I'd like you to find it. It's it doesn't move the needle at all.
Sure.
You can spend years or more looking for it. It doesn't move the needle at all. So compared to infinity, compared to eternality,
Mhm.
what's the difference between 100 years that you might live, or 50 years that you might live, or 1 week of your life? The small spans of time, the way we perceive the depth of our emotions, anything that's happening for us compared to for even 14 billion years, we're talking, since the Big Bang, but we're talking about eternality. It's like nothing. So what it means is everything in reality originated as a singular unity, with no time, with no space, with no motion. As a singular, everything in reality was integrated as one. It has developed to the point that now I can speak to you. Mud can't speak to you. Stardust can't speak to you. You might be able to perceive things emanating from the mud or emanating from the stardust messages or whatever. But as far as like having a conversation, we're not yet, we don't have the ability to have a conversation with mud or with stardust or with a plant that it can speak back to you and tell you what it likes and it doesn't like. But with people, this stardust developed through mud, through plants, and through a long period of time until it formed a mouth and developed a brain in the front until we can now speak with each other. And so our source is that unity. And now we're coming to a point where we can reunite all of reality. We have the ability, we have the conscious ability to unite all of reality. And what that does is that brings us to a perception that's beyond time and space, because that connection is an eternal connection. It always exists. The only difference is we're able to, at a certain kind of point in time, speak about it and start to perceive it and start to measure it inside of ourselves. And so what happens as people start to come together, so that's clear so far, right?
Yeah, no, I like the portrayal. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Let's I actually I want to add right into it. I
Okay,
mean, I
please.
like that you went all the way to the Big Bang in order to explain what is it that we're doing in this
What we just did, what we
in
just
this
stepped away
event.
from
Yeah.
15 minutes
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. No, no, that's great. That's great. I want to stay there. So, yeah, let's I mean, from the Big Bang, before the Big Bang, reality, all of us were unified in this one unique point of singularity. Now, as it exploded and expanded, uh, this collective entity that it represents, in Kabbalah we call this collective soul.
In
It
what?
in the wisdom of Kabbalah we
You said
call
the
we
four-letter word.
Yes, I did. The we call this collective soul, and so we what this means is that we were all shattered to pieces, essentially. Now, we see in this world, scientists identify something called the Big Bang, and this, the expansion of time, space, and but but there is a certain point within each and every person that sort of remembers that we were all one thing. You know what I mean? There is remembers is not, that's a figurative way of saying that, but there is a certain built-in information, built-in data, built-in memory again from that point before we exploded and shattered. This is something that we clearly don't understand with our five senses, and don't see with our five senses,
If
but
I let me
we
say
all
for a second,
came from
Asaf,
that point. Yeah.
if I have some emptiness inside of me and I'm only a little bit developed and I'm presented with an ad in front of me for a hamburger. So the way that I know to fulfill my emptiness is by buying that hamburger.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can get beyond just needing food to survive, but there's this, you're saying that we have this memory from way back, from when, from beyond time and
Yeah,
space.
you know what?
So
Let's use the word impression. We have like some
okay.
sort of an impression, like a stamp, like an imprint in our
So
yeah, in our
so
makeup.
take a
Yeah.
take a person and with a certain level sensitivity to that imprint. Okay,
Yeah.
whoever it is, just generic person with level 2 of imprint of that, um, of sensitivity to that imprint. Okay, just on a level
Okay.
2, there's something that feels something awakening inside. Put that person in Alaska. So something inside of me starts to feel empty. I don't know what. So I look for Alaskan things to quench it.
Right.
Take that exact person and put him in Sharm el Sheikh or put him in Qatar or whatever, and they're looking for Qatari things, Qatari ways to fill it. Now, okay, that got
Right.
us. That got development to a certain level. Now crank up the sensitivity to a 6 or a 7. And the person starts to realize, regardless of where they live, whether it's Alaska or Qatar, that the hamburger doesn't satisfy that emptiness,
Mm-hmm.
that the new car, the new boat doesn't satisfy it. And now start to crank it up even more. And now you start to become a little bit despaired at what can I do with this emptiness, because
Yeah.
I yeah, and then these people start to find each other.
Yeah.
And
So every human being has an impression of that primordial unity that we were all in, right? But it depends on whether it is felt, whether it is conscious. And as you said, that it surfaces perhaps as a sense of emptiness, perhaps as a sense of lack of purpose and meaning in anything that they're trying to look for. But it's actually um, coming from that primordial unity. I don't know how to call that, from that singularity, from that state that we were all in. And so now, 14 billion years later, after the Big Bang, there are these points of these recollections, these impressions are starting to like awaken and find each other and help each other regain that sensation of that primordial oneness and unity that they all once had. Does that work? You think that that
that
kind of
that works.
captures some of
That
it?
works. And um if you were to give a child a bunch of money, okay, like power, knowledge, for example. I'm saying money because it's something very easily, it's an
Yeah.
easy example to relate to. We're talking to somebody who just found our show on the street, even maybe. um so give them to a group of kids. They would stay up all night and eat candy, play video games and eat candy. So they have, all of a sudden, they have this power, they have, or this knowledge, this ability, and they stay up all night and eat candy. But we have, um, so that's basically humanity right now. We developed to the point where we basically have all the quote unquote, not that each person needs $1 million in their bank account, but humanity developed to the point that basically, as far as we needed to get, we can do whatever needs to be done. But we're humanity is living as children staying up all night eating candy. We're not, each time we get some money or we get something, we use it as just some, like a kid with candy or something. There's no, we're not using our development towards discovering that we are eternal, that we are actually intended to feel
Mm.
an endless fulfillment, not just a piece of candy and then it's over. That's what a kid would do. When you, um, I don't know, you take your kid and you give your kid a cup of ice cream, and they can, their pleasure lasts for the cup of ice cream. But you have 4 kids or 3 kids and you give them each ice cream, and you're watching them eat it, and you're getting pleasure from each of them eating the ice cream. It's like a
Mm.
different, it's a silly small example, but the child is just taking that money, taking that small pleasure and ingesting it. And now humanity is at the point where we can do the flip. We already have, here we are with coronavirus. Here we are with all kind of
Mhm.
things happening in the world. And that's just from eating ice cream all day long. And our teeth are rotting out and we're starting to feel sick. It's not some coronavirus and all these other things that are happening in the world. It's not some kind of punishment. We're in a system of laws. We're in a system of fixed laws. If you just put ice cream in your mouth all day, there's consequences. It's not like, oh, the gods hate me so much. No, it's just a consequence. And so there's also laws. For example, you have a wave. That wave can either lift you up if you know how, if you're standing in the ocean and you know when to jump, you can go right up with that wave and then it sets you down. Or if you don't know how to deal with it and someone just sticks in the ocean and a wave comes, it smashes you down. You could probably drown
Yeah.
or, get water up your nose. So there's waves coming from nature, bigger and bigger waves. And what we're engaged in now is understanding, what are these waves? How do I work with these waves? How do these waves lift me up? And now it's not, we're not getting smashed anymore. And nature doesn't, ignorance of the law is not an excuse anymore. We
Yeah. Okay, so let's try to situate or to place this event that we're engaged in right now, these this weekend until Sunday. Um, how would you, it's so there, I don't know, there's a feeling that it's hard suddenly. It's hard to kind of put it all in one picture, but what we're doing, um, connecting with people from all over the world and working on this collective consciousness, this shared sensation of this deeper common unity that is mandated by nature, feeling that between us. How, that has to do with everything that's happening in the world right now. How do you feel? Let's, I'm asking you and I'm asking myself at the same time. How would we put, you know into context, into the same context, everything that's happening in the world right now? You mentioned COVID. There's a bunch of mess that the world is in, and then there is this event that, um, where you have people, 7,000 people from all over the world working on intensively on finding this common unity between them. How would you connect that with what's happening in the world?
um I was recently talking to my dad about life, and he was talking to me about the 50s and about how amazing the 50s were in America. Every day you kind of knew what was going to happen next.
Mm,
There was like a very predictable, there was a predictability to life. It was after the war. Things, people had work. People didn't want to fight with each other. I mean, he was in New York, so maybe might have been bad in other places, but there was like a family, there was a house, and every night there was a warm meal in the house, and the family had work, and there was no need to go take over the world. It was like a calm, fulfilling time at that level.
mm,
So if someone came, so that's it. You're comfortable there. We don't live like that anymore. We live in a world where from day to day, like in that world, maybe a man, for example, had some, I need to take care of my family. So he gets a house, he gets married, he has a kid or two, and he goes to his job. And it's like, it's done. It's finished. That's the picture. And they just ride it out like that, and that's life. And today, his yearning was to like be able to create a family and just
mm-hmm,
do that. Maybe get a house, get a car, go on one vacation a year. Today, from day to day, you take all of the yearning of that guy, you could, but that equals like one day for an average 20-year-old today, like this endless emptiness that today the emptiness is just constantly. Wait, what was the question?
no, you just
Oh, how does the convention fit with the corona and
yeah,
all that kind of
with everything that's
right?
happening in the world, but you took me on
Because
a on an interesting rabbit hole here. Yeah.
because now where nature is pushing us to develop towards a fulfillment that is way beyond an animal fulfillment, and all of the things that we see happening with the virus and and all of the things surrounding it, is in order that we will feel, you know, back then there was an emptiness, and it forced me to build a family in the 1950s in New York, for example. Today, there's an emptiness that forces me to build a family, but it turns out the family that I need is a global family. I need all of humanity. Like, we got to a point where if there's a problem in another country, it turns out that it becomes my problem too, and we'll see that more and more happening. That's the magic of what's happening here, is that we are a global family now. It's not completely revealed. Everybody, it doesn't feel like that outright to everyone. People don't realize that if someone else is suffering, that that affects me, or that my suffering is affecting others. So here we join. Please jump in at any point here.
No, no, it's the I think it's two very clear trends that we're talking about. The world is becoming increasingly interdependent. There is an evident global interdependence, and it's becoming more and more evident from day to day. I totally get that, and you took me back for a second to the 50s. I was imagining that all of a sudden got to get drowned into that depiction a little bit. But yeah, this is like a completely different world in what in 70 years, a completely different world. So at an exponential rate, the world is becoming globally interdependent. We are becoming something completely different than what people were, what human beings were 70 years ago. So that is 100% evident, I think. Everyone understands, that the world today is so much more globally interdependent than it ever was. Now, how much do people understand that we have to change ourselves and become global people, so to speak, or become globally connected to each other to match this natural trend, this natural development that's happening? That is a big question, but you could totally contextualize what we're doing and the kind of convention that we're participating in right now, where you have 100, over 100 countries and dozens of languages and so many different people actually developing that sense of global humanity between them and developing a vision of a global human society. How that is 100% relevant to the general trend of global interdependence that the world is going through. Let's go to let's try to talk about what does it actually mean, because this is something I think that is unclear to most people who have no idea what we're doing. What does it actually mean to work on unity, to work on connection, to work on finding that common, collective, shared sensation between people that we refer to as a sense of connection or unity, or however you want to call it? Let's
But
try to yeah.
imagine if
Mm-hmm.
I could just eliminate everyone who pisses me off.
Mm,
Wouldn't that be awesome? Just eliminate them from my life. Just,
sure.
like, I'm going through my day and someone
Yeah.
pisses me off, and just like, zzz, just eliminate them. I
Yeah.
don't, not even shooting them would be like messy, and it would hurt my consciousness.
Yeah,
But if
yeah,
I had
yeah.
just a
Just
button
this,
and just
just a
eliminate them,
disappearance. Just a disappearance.
I walk into
Yeah.
the grocery
I think
store
everyone
and I've
has
got,
this kind of ego driven depiction at some
I don't
point,
call it ego. I don't know what you call it, but I go into the grocery
Yeah.
store, and the
Okay.
person behind the register, it feels like it's just not giving. He's not treating me with the respect I deserve. Just,
Mm-hmm.
just eliminate him. So,
Or maybe you just
on the
don't
one,
like someone's face and that's it. You eliminate
that's
them.
it. Just
Yeah.
eliminate.
Okay.
So, it would be great to have a life where everyone just worships me, and everything is just great for me. um, um, I don't know how much flavor I would have. There's like a parable about some prince, and his king dad gives him, like, fine women to rub his feet and put oil in his hair, and gives him music, and gives him good fruits, and gives him all of the best of everything, and he never wants for anything. And then he becomes an adult, and I'll give you a simpler story. My kids love berries, and
Yeah.
like I was trying to get them to eat stuff, so just got tons of berries like for like months, and then like my refrigerator just filled up with berries because they were just sick of berries. Like even though it's like the most beautiful, yummy, delicious fruit, it's
Mm-hmm.
like when you just have what you want all the time, it loses its flavor. You need to have no berries in order to appreciate berries.
Yeah, Oscar
So
Wilde has this great adage or saying, that there's two tragedies in life. The one is not getting what you want, and the other one is getting it. And
getting what you
the
want.
latter is much worse than the first.
Mhm.
Then
Um,
yeah,
yeah, well, I mean, you look at
and
relationships, how person you know you long to be together with somebody, and then you end up with them, and you spend
yeah.
the next
So
40 years
so
figuring out how to
basically,
get out.
getting what we want is getting what we want is bad. Is that what we're saying here?
No, 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 no. We're just pointing out certain um, flows in human nature. But so if I back to me, back to everybody worshiping me. Um,
Yeah.
if we could just make a world where everyone just did whatever I wanted, wouldn't that be good? It turns out no. It turns out that if everybody just did whatever I wanted and I can just eliminate everybody who was against me, it turns out wouldn't make me happy. It wouldn't make anybody happy.
Hmm.
Um, After a while, in fact, it'd make us completely miserable. And maybe it's worth it at some point to go into that. So unity, opposed to what we see the politicians in America, unity doesn't mean just shutting up and silencing everybody who doesn't agree with me. It turns out that we're talking about these laws of nature, and that when opposites are integrated correctly, some new form is born. Meaning, when the opposites integrated correctly under the right conditions, vegetation, organic life came. And then, when more and more complex opposites came together, animals were born. So now we have very, very opposite humans. And the idea is not to just gather together a bunch of people who all think exactly like me and do
Hmm.
exactly what I want, but that specifically nature developed all of these different people. And when those different people start to bring those opposite forces together and learn how to bring those opposite forces together, like the filament in a light bulb between the plus and the minus, and that resistance between them, and all of a sudden a light shines,
Hmm.
something illuminates inside of there. That's the unity that we're talking about.
Okay,
We're
good.
talking.
Good. No, no.
Hmm?
Good. Keep going. Keep going. No, you're
There is, and why is it such a few? Why such a 7,000? It seems like a big number, but compared to how many people on Earth, almost 8 billion, it seems like a very, very, very small number.
yep.
Um, but how many people invented this damn phone? Very few. And now how many billions have it? So everything also in reality is developed like a pyramid. uh, you know One guy invents a car, the whole world has cars. So we have to also understand, and this is important message for everybody who's with us today, you have to understand who you are. You are a pioneer in humanity. You are you're like one of the plants who's like, we're going to become animals, or we're it's I don't know how to say it. We're at the threshold of the next degree of what we're going to become, and you are at the tip of that, um, that spear. And there's more heavy lifting there. Today, to get a phone, you just get some financing, and anyone can get a phone. In the past, you had engineers and designers and computer scientists, and you had to, so many things, so many hours and hundreds and thousands of hours to get there. And today, eh, just swipe it on your card, and you can have it this afternoon, right? So
Hmm.
what we're going through is the heavy lifting, and all of humanity will come after us. And it does not matter what religion. Everyone can keep their religion. If you want to go to the mosque on Friday, if you want to go to the synagogue on Saturday, if you want to go to the church on Sunday, if you're one of the 100 African religions, it doesn't matter. You can keep all of your culture, uh, but we are those people who are. Uh, sorry, I just
Yeah,
lost my
no,
flow.
no, 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 no. This is a difficult point to explain. So we come together in groups of people, and um, in a convention like that, and you find yourself in a group of people who are different. You have differences with them. You're not necessarily the same kind of people. You might have very different traits in terms of your physical kind of nature, and yet what we do is we make the effort to not eliminate those differences, not try to negate them, eradicate them, erase them, rather feel them as electricity, feel them as fuel, feel them as something that is a greater force, a force of nature between us. It's like, you know how I sometimes I think of it like this. You know how you take magnets, and if you direct the poles, you call it, the poles of the
Mhm.
magnets towards each other, you feel the resistance.
Right.
You know, you can't you literally feel that force, but if you flip the poles, then they stick right into to each other. And so you can feel that force, how it is a force of rejection that can also be a force of connection, a force of adhesion. And so the only thing that we are working on is identifying that force of resistance between human beings. Like, you know, like you said, I many times of my day I'd like to just eliminate everyone who's not who, that I don't feel like hanging out with or whatever. So you feel that, you don't disregard that resistance, and yet what we do is we learn how to flip our intentions. We call this our direction of thought and perception of each other, so we can discover how, if we turn towards each other in a certain way, we can then complete each other into something new without canceling that force of resistance. It just becomes a force that does something else. It's like how, when you make a plane, when you build a plane, you don't change gravity. You learn how to work with the force of gravity to the point that the same force actually helps you lift, uh, uh, develop a lift and go above the ground. So when that happens, you suddenly feel, gonna go a little just uh,
Oh,
emotional and personal here, because I don't know, it's a bit hard today to discuss these things intellectually. I think because we're kind of coming from this very internally driven kind of event. Anyways, um, you what you feel is that you feel all of a sudden how specifically the differences that you see in others, specifically the opposites, the contrasts that you identify between you and others. It's in those spaces, it's in those voids, those gaps, that this adhesive force, that this connecting force becomes revealed. Um, and then you suddenly feel like you are not you, they are not them. There is a greater entity, a collective kind of shared existence outside of who am I and my story and my personality and my identity. You discover that you can actually live in that space that is just the space that connects the connection points between you and others,
You nailed it.
there is a
You,
reality there. Go ahead. It's
you nailed it there, because until now we related to ourself as ourself. Until now, I thought that this
yeah.
is me. We're discovering, and that's a very powerful sense. That's probably what each cell in the body, he kind of lives for himself.
Mm.
Uh, Now we're discovering that what is me is, it doesn't end at my skin. And I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah, yeah. Now this is this takes some brainwashing to kind of get to, because we spend our entire life thinking that everything from my skin in was me.
You know,
How are you going to now
you can
tell me that?
call it undoing maybe instead of or unbrainwashing. We've
I'm
we're
not, but no,
yeah,
it was
whatever. Yeah.
it's part of the development, though. I mean, we without that we wouldn't have made it to here. So
Yes.
I needed to feel myself specifically. If I never felt myself, I remain as an ant, as a bird. I just feel I'm part of some collective. I have some group mind that controls me all day. And now each of us feels so different and so unique. And then somehow we have this emptiness or whatever it is that pushes us to all come together, right? There's a few thousand people that come to a convention like this. They found each other through, I don't know, they read a book first, and they went on some site, then they tried drugs, then they did this, they did meditation, they did whatever they did. They finally found some place where, even if it didn't totally, even if they didn't totally understand it, they start to say, something's happening here. I start to feel that something is going. I guess it's kind of like when you find your partner in life. Um, you know, it's not just like a check. It's not just check marks. There's some, with dogs, they just smell each other's butts and they know. There's also something,
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't take that away from us either. There's something in us that it's not just an Excel spreadsheet. Is this person right for me? We somehow, through these forces moving inside of us, find each other. And um, without this whole process of development that we went through, there would be no such thing as me feeling myself and you feeling yourself.
Yeah.
So then we don't, right. So now we arrived at me feeling myself and you feeling it yourself. And so much so that all of the troubles we see in the world are a result. It's really, we need to be very happy about what we see being revealed in the world right now, because now each one feels himself as the center of the world. Each one feels important and everyone should serve me. Each one feels he should be the most rich, the most famous, the most correct, the most honored, whatever. And then from there, we go through this process together of this convention of these people, who hopefully you can help me open up, what is this convention, who are these people, a little bit more. And we start to say, okay, from my chair where I put myself with the computer that I purchased in front of me with my coffee and my me, now I'm going to do this thing that is specifically a human thing that no animal can do, no
Mm-hmm.
other creature, not even that. No, my neighbors aren't doing it. My relatives aren't doing it. My coworkers aren't doing it. There's just a few people who all of a sudden now they're also me people. And then they want to say, what is this reality that exists outside of me,
Mm-hmm.
where I also exist? I'm discovering that my life is existing outside of my skin. There's a whole eternal reality that I'm starting to feel that I'm in, that is beyond what I feel inside of my skin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that point within each person that asks, and it exists in every person. It doesn't matter whether it's either they may feel it or not feel it yet, connect to it more or connect to it less, but every person feels the existential questions about the meaning and purpose of our existence, our meaning and purpose in life, and what you feel when you start this journey of moving, shifting your point of view and your aspirations, your inclinations, shifting your thoughts away from the me consciousness into this consciousness of connection with others. When you start engaging in that, when you start investing yourself in that, you start seeing that this exiting from yourself, this exit um, from the consciousness of the ego, call it that, let's call it like that. When you come out of that a little bit, just inclined to get out of it towards the exit, you start seeing that this and the questions for meaning and purpose, that they're the answers are there. Meaning the our if we go back to the before the Big Bang, our primordial unity, that primordial singularity that all of reality was, the reason that we have questions about our meaning and purpose is because we are aspiring to go back to that, and working on connecting with others, working on going outside of yourself towards connecting with others, caring for others, you start seeing that this is that the quest for the human quest for meaning and purpose, and the this journey of connection with others, they're intertwined. They're one and the same, because it takes us, that work of connection with others takes us back to that reality where we're all one,
You,
but
can you
in
try
a
and talk
conscious
about
way.
it instead of going back? Can you just
Yeah.
flip it and going forward?
Yeah, because you can't, of course, you're only going forward. It sounds like we're going back because we're only going forward. You can't go back. Back means, going back to unconsciousness, to lack of consciousness. We, um, we were in a womb, but we didn't feel anything. We were connected in that womb. We were connected to our caregiver in the most intimate way. We were the most bonded we can ever be, and we were one thing, one created being in the womb of creation of the governing force of nature. But we didn't feel anything. We had no consciousness. We're not going back there. We went out of there and we started developing as conscious beings, and we started feeling that we are many different separated individuals, everyone with his me perception, like you've illustrated, right? And now, when after having developed this self-awareness and this individualistic consciousness, after that we're now reconstructing, or regaining that sense of oneness, that we are actually all one, but in a conscious way. So we're not going back to the womb, we are going forward into a new stage in reality that's never been there before, a new level of human evolution, a new level of human awareness, where we are recognizing in a conscious way that despite all the differences, that despite all the conflicts, despite everything that makes us feel separate, we are actually, we are indeed one, and one we came from oneness, and we are now regaining that sense of oneness. But we're not going back to the unconscious oneness. We're going to forward towards a conscious state of connection.
Every the last, I don't know how many years, 15 years or whatever it was, we got together once a year for this event, but
Yeah.
physically. There's like such a dramatic I didn't have time to prepare the clip, but there's such a dramatic scene from one of the conventions we had in Israel a few years ago, where a representative from I don't know, 100, one of each of 100 companies, walked up towards the stage with a giant flag from his country,
Mm.
until you had everybody up there. You
With
had like the
that
whole world
mosaic
based,
of
yeah, the whole
representation of the
world
world.
represented.
Yeah.
And in order to get there, for this week long event or 4 day event, whatever it was, everybody had to take off work, had to make arrangements with the family,
Yeah.
had to spend money to go on a flight, had to find a place to stay, either with a friend or in a hotel, or whatever it was. It was a lot of physical effort. And because of the physical effort, it's like, I guess, when you win the Super Bowl or win the Olympics. I mean, it's like, you trained for years, you sacrificed, and then you're there. Now we entered into this virtual world where you just need to sit down in your chair and open up the computer. And but if you it's the same amount more effort is required to get where we want to go. But now all of these physical things, it's just like what we saw happen with COVID. Like, all of these physical things about how we used to connect kind of disappear, and what's left is our emotions together. What's left
Mm.
basically is can we enter into some emotional space together? Because before, when I flew there and I saw Roberto from Mexico, or I saw Steve from Norway, or I saw this one, Nazir from Kiev, I saw all these friends from all around the world. It was such, you just feel like, it feels from Brazil, from some guys like, oh my god, I slept in the airplane in Addis
Yeah.
Ababa for 15 hours. Well, my flight, they didn't have enough gasoline in the country, and they had to fly in jet fuel. And everyone had crazy stories. They came from all over the world. Some guy, it took him, I don't know, weeks to get there, and another one, whatever the story was. It was so emotional, and it was so real to see these people from all these walks of life who came together for this. Now this year, 2021, it's like a whole other, um
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I'll tell you what. It's like the so we were making all these efforts, all these physical efforts to travel, right? To go out of our comfort zone, of our physical geography, in order to be in a shared physical material space so we can focus on being together in an inner space. And now with COVID is like shackling us, like shackling or putting shackles on our hands and keeping us where we are. So now only our desire and intention have to travel towards each other and travel outside of ourselves and move towards a shared space. So the same, it's a very interesting thing, after so many years, year after year, we used to meet physically, and now we're kind of doing the same thing without the physical traveling, but you really do feel like your internality is traveling, traveling outside. It's exactly what I was, such a good portrayal of what I was trying to explain, some of that feeling. And this
of being
actually
together
helps.
physically.
Yeah.
So at some point, we will be together again physically. It could happen. um I mean, maybe it'll happen in 2021, maybe 2022. We'll all be together. But here's the thing: it becomes, um, it's like the movies now in Hollywood, where everything is just a remake of something that happened before. If we don't advance now, if we don't do this kind of inner work, so then it just becomes like a caricature of itself. It just becomes like we're all together. Yay. It's so fun. We're
Mm.
dancing and we're eating and we're singing and we're drinking and everything is one, and it's great. But we're not, we're, listen, what we're doing here. I mean, the purpose of our lives, what we've dedicated our lives to, why we opened this show, what we're doing with all of these other people, we're interested in opening up that eternal life. I mean, that's what this is about. We're interested in opening up something that won't just fade away. So now is the moment. Now is the time when we connect together. Now is the time when we try above all of our differences to constantly keep making efforts to unite more and more and more, and also simultaneously discovering what are these laws of nature, because this isn't something that we made up, and it's not anything that you should believe. There's nothing to believe here. You just look, you try these things on, you see that everything we're talking about is just laws of nature. Certain people discovered what system we exist in, what forces are operating inside of me, right? You could say to someone, well, actually, according to what I'm studying now, it turns out that inside of us, there's a simple line of software that says, how can I receive the most for myself while exerting the least amount of effort? Right? That's basically the line of software that all of reality is operating.
Mm-hmm.
How can I make the least effort and get the most? You know, if you come across someone who's no, 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 all I do is dedicate myself to peace and love all day long, and whatever, if you come across people who don't understand, who don't share with you what these laws of nature are, there's not much conversation there. So it's kind of okay, we move on. Everything that we're talking about is based in all of the people that are coming together in this convention, like have tested these things on themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's
And
already a shared foundation. It's not just some hippie ideal of love and unity. It's like, oh, I already discovered what forces are operating on me. I already discovered what my nature is.
and the big difference that we should kind of stress, I think, if we're already talking about, like, the difference between that kind of work on developing this quality of connection between people, and just um, just you know talking about peace and love in a hippie way. The big difference is that there is a recognition among the people who practice the method of Kabbalah. This is like, it's like stage one. It's like lesson one. It's like the basis that we all understand when we even just begin this journey, and it is that we can't just make peace and love between people. This is not how nature works. That's why it never worked before, and it never will work. You can't just bring people and poof, let's love each other, let's get along with each other, let's connect with each other. It does not work. it requires it requires the human beings to first of all recognize that they can't connect by themselves, that they are egoistic towards each other, that they want to just cancel each other's, erase the differences and connect with people who are similar to them. We are not in naturally connected and loving people, but specifically by recognizing this and aspiring towards this state of connection between us, we can then come in contact with the connecting force of nature that binds all of reality together. And that's how we can come to connection. And the only way that humanity can rise from its conflicts and can ultimately rise in its consciousness and achieve global unity of some sort, which is becoming more and more necessary also because of that global interdependence that's growing that we've talked about. The only way for human beings to ultimately get along on this planet is to recognize that we can't do it on our own, and we need to work with that binding force of nature. We need to extract it from nature itself. We need to work with the laws of nature, just like those magnets, learn how to flip our directions towards each other so that the same force that now we identify as resistance will bring us together. And that is something that, we're gonna just have to do as a society. It's going to become the new culture, the new education, the new work, the future work of the human being. That is what people will actually be doing in the future society. Um, all right.
Okay,
What
pioneers.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. This is I gotta say, this is not um it's not easy to to come out of this very internal kind of event, and and as we're processing it, to share that as well. But I think that all the people who are now with us, they're totally feeling. At least I'm looking on the chat, and I'm mostly seeing people who are to some extent understand exactly what we're going through, more or less, and we're sharing the same direction, same intention, same desire for all human beings on this planet to discover this method of connecting to each other and rising to a new level of existence. And that's really great. We
We're, we're
Yeah,
we're very very lucky, everyone.
yeah.
It's happening. It's happening now. There's you can't really under if you saw a mango until it's a sweet fruit, it looks bitter and it's hard, you know. So we're like in the middle stage of a mango. So let's be happy that it's happening, and we're starting to understand what is the process that we're in, and we're starting to understand what is happening. It's the ripening of humanity. When we look outside and we see things happening with governments, and we look outside and we see things happening with the virus, we don't need to be scared. We don't. This is a transition that we're going through, that humanity's going through. We'll talk about it more and more. We'll understand it more and more. You're all amazing. You are the pioneers of humanity. Be strong, strengthen each other, get to know each other. Don't be scared that we're different from each other. In fact, the real unity comes from the merging of opposites. And it does, we can't go
Yes,
out and try, we can't go out, I see, yeah, we
exactly.
can't go out to the street and try and do this with people who have no idea what we're talking about yet. It doesn't work like that. You can't just take Einstein, just can't go out and give what he knows to a kindergartner. You're already engaged in this. We want all of humanity, every color will come to this. But first, let's start finding the people who are already with us in this, and let's make a big force. It's like if you see a musician on the side of the street and there's one person standing around him, nobody cares. But if you see a person on the side of the street and there's 50 people, then everyone gets attracted to it. So you guys are the first 50. I'm just saying that like not literally, but metaphorically.
Yeah.
It's the first group. It's happening. Be strong, be confident, have joy that we get to experience it in our lives. This is what everyone's always wanted, and we're engaged in it. So
Well said, my
wonderful to
brother.
be.
Well said, my
Hmm?
brother. Yes. No, I appreciate your summary. Um, yeah. Should we play our theme song in
Play the theme
full?
song.
Play the theme song in full. All right, let's feel it together. Let's feel these lyrics are really, maybe the best summary of what we were communicating here.
So we'll see you on
Um,
the other side. We'll see you
yes,
Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Big hug, everyone.
Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. See you there.